Hello, it's 11:38 a.m. on the 8th of June 2020, year zero. And this is, I know how the internet works. So this is the commercial part. You're going to have to sit through this little bit of, or jump over it, self-serving information. So what I'm going to do is to plug the Pure Sleep stuff by telling you about the fat shock that you saw in the title entrance thing there. Where'd I go? Where'd I go? There's one. So fat shock is actually legit, okay? So the scientists, we'll leave that, have come up with an understanding now of why anesthetics do what they do to humans and other mammalian vertebrates or vertebrate mammals, okay? Because what they've discovered is that anesthetics come on in and they realign your fats in the lipid layers in the neurons in your brain. And so a quick little, so if this was a neuron and here's a little bit of fats and they're all lined up like this normally, then what happens, and so that's your normal state, and that's how your brain neuron normally works, and there's, there may be stuff, being transported back and forth and all of that kind of stuff around these little fat layers, right? And these little lipid fat, they're not globules, they're plates more than globules, they're lined up in a particular order, and that's your normal waking state, okay? So normal waking state. And then they come along and they gas you. They give you ether, they give you some of these other anesthetics. Well, you can have anesthetics that are gases, you can have anesthetics that are drugs, injected, eaten, all different kinds. And so there's always been this question of how the hell do they actually work? And what it's been determined, at least so far in the evidence being presented by the studies and experiments being done, and this is at, let's see, SciTech. And I think it was just under anesthetics. Anyways, scitech.com, or is it a .org? I'll dig it out and I'll put it into the description here. Anyway, the article goes on to say that they discovered that anesthetics work by shocking all of these little fats there, such that they take an entirely different arrangement and go a bit squirrely. And so in the process of going a little squirrely, in all these cells and all these neuron cells, your fat dealies start doing stuff that they're not supposed to, and that's the state of that we define as unconsciousness here. Unconscious, okay? And so you're uncon when your fats are disrupted, and that's what anesthetics do. And this is a really key kind of a thing to learn, because it now tells us why, for instance, sleep happens, right? And in the sense that sleep is your fat platelets within the neuron cell structures rearranging themselves in a natural, organized fashion. Unlike the anesthetic, where it comes along and bombs you and you're out. But it also tells us something potentially about the use of psychedelic drugs that have the ability to transport consciousness, that is to say, disrupt consciousness location in a universal geographic sense witut disrupting the consciousness itself. So, in other words, the anesthetics come on in, and we have anesthetics coming on in, and they disrupt it, and you become unconscious here, right? Because your normal waking state is disrupted. But you could have psychedelic drugs come on in and disrupt it as well, in an entirely different way. And instead of becoming unconscious, your consciousness becomes transported somewhere else while still remaining intact, more or less, right? Because psychedelic drugs do that. It's a more or less kind of thing. The self isn't destroyed, consciousness isn't destroyed, it's not altered, but the parameters in which it operates are altered, and now we know why. Because at least potentially, we know why. One of the things here is that it's potentially that this arrangement of the fat platelets in here, maybe for psychedelic journeys, they all go horizontal, so to speak, right? Which is basically to say maybe they all have a specific vibration, and it causes your consciousness to go where the psychedelic journeys send you, which we'll call hyperspace. But so it gives us some interesting and very intriguing things to think about relative to the mind and mind activity and the brain and how those two are interrelated, because the mind is not the brain and the brain is not the mind. So, but they do interact. And so here we have now an understanding, a better understanding of anesthetics and what they do to the brain, and this hints at other modalities that can also influence the brain in positive ways, negative ways perhaps as well, for altering the mind and consciousness and basically what you do with it, right? So what I'm saying is that we now understand something a little bit more as to what's going on, and I bet you, because of the way that I had researched it, I mean, like seriously researched it over the course of like 7 solid months doing biochemical analysis and biopharmacological analysis and molecular biochemical analysis and molecular biopharmacology analysis in order to develop this Pure Sleep product, which I finally have a bag of, by the way. This is one of them. I didn't want to ask the guys at purebulk.com that produce these to send me one until now, because it was always been on short supply. We've always been sold out. And so better people should get it than I should have a bag here, because I can make my own, right? This is a formula I devised, and I've got all the material here to create it, and so on. And so this is a bag of it. It's a 60-day supply. There's a little spoon thing in here that gives you your measurement. It's like a teaspoon and a half. And here's the thing, guys. You can use it in water because it has a constituent in here that protects the stomach and actually invokes 70 to 80% of the effect without them, but it is best used with taken with fats. Okay, so I mean, I designed it to be used with dairy products, yogurt, full fat milk. I was trying to build up my muscles. One of the things I was doing here was providing components within the elements in the mix that tend to promote human growth hormone to natural levels in a nice, gentle fashion, along with harmonizing with your digestion system, and it all worked off of the fat layer. So when I was devising this, I'd first gotten down to about 138 pounds, maybe it's 138.2, something like that. And that's fully clothed. And I'd lost mass amounts of muscle, especially upper body strength. And so I had to come up with something. And so when I was doing this, I knew I needed to pack on the weight. You just got a delivery here. Pack on the weight, and in order to do so, I had put it into basically milk and half. So it was quite a high-fat mix. But now that I've bulked back up, the half and half's gone this last year or so. I haven't used it, so it isn't necessary. But this stuff works very well with the fats in milk. It works very well with fats in all kinds of milk, nut milks as well. I hear really good reports out of Hawaii with macadamia nut milk. And but it doesn't work well with hemp. Okay, some of the seed milks have a componentry to it's just disharmonious. So anyway, so this is Pure Sleep. You can get it at purebulk.com and just do a search. I'll have a link for it. This is the little commercial part in the video. So maybe you watch through all of this. Pure Sleep is really good. I've built back all kinds of muscle mass here. I'm out being energetic, doing shit, causing problems for the world. So in that sense, it's been a very, very great recovery aid. And I'm recovering from colon cancer and from the deprivations and scarring and trashing of the colon cancer surgery. So I needed all the help I can get. There's no question about that. And I'm doing okay with it. I mean, I'm doing really damn well, actually. So that was the fat shock stuff, right? So it validates my thinking about how those elements that I was after could aid sleep and then aid the body during sleep. Because I discovered, quite factually, our bodies can do nothing more than triage for repairs against damage while we're awake. In other words, you only heal when you're asleep. I could only build muscle mass when I'm asleep. If you're out there, tearing ass running, or you're kickboxing or something all day long, your body's not making new muscle while you're doing that. Your body's only making new muscle when you get your ass flat, you start and relax, and this entirely different set of processes take over, right? It's then that the human growth hormone comes on out. It's then that these hormones are activated. So for instance, you go out and get vitamin D, you get sunlight during the day. Your body doesn't use it during the day. It's a steroid hormone itself, and your body uses it at night. Same thing is true with melatonin and all of these kind of hormones, right? In my opinion, it's unwise to take the hormones directly, except in the cases of the vitamins. Those kind of supplements are not issues. So when I designed the Pure Bulk stuff, I had to take all this stuff into account, right? Because I wanted to have a nice, gentle sleep, especially with my colon cancer. I didn't want it hassling with my digestion at all. I wanted to wake up without any kind of a hangover. I wanted to wake up with a happy feeling. I didn't want it to be oppressive. I didn't want it to alter the mind state to the point where you felt like a residual effect in any way throughout the day. I didn't want it to combine with stuff like alcohol and produce even seriously more effects, that kind of thing. So if you were a drinker, and so it just does not, so it was a lot of work anyway, and it works very well. Specifically for what it does. It's a gentle sleep-inducing aid that assists your body and provides your body with the nutrients that it needs to accomplish those tasks while you're asleep. And then you wake up feeling refreshed, there's no hangover. I have found we've had no one wake up and tell me that they felt bad as a result of taking this. I had all kinds of people using it in tests while I was developing various different parts of the formula and so on. And it's consistently worked, and I'm now, it's over 19, it's probably like 21 months or something that I've been basically with this formula here. We've got a new grind that I'm testing out now. We have to do this with each batch that comes from a different supplier because we're dealing with products that have aromatic components in them, like biochemically aromatic. That is to say, they have specific chemical constituents that can be affected by aging and oxidation and all this sort of thing. So and also with the stresses of the supply chains being disrupted, we have those issues as well. But Pure Bulk has been very good. We have some in stock, and we're working on the next batch. So things are proceeding quite well. And lots of people say it works for them within the first half hour. And I know I really screwed up last night because I was thinking, oh, I'm a little tired. I was kind of aching. I had to repair my tractor. And so I had some a little bit early, and it's like, damn, out by 7:45, and stumble on into bed. But it was a great sleep. So, it compensates. Yeah, I'm getting up early.